Hello, everybody. Someone said time between Christmas and New Year's is referred to as the taint. I can definitely fucking agree with that. It's that middle ground, the undefined country. Is it this or is it that? The this and that combined. Right? That's the biggest conundrum, right? Is we don't like it, right? When two things occupy the same space. So, just to do the standing like always. You guys down? Sorry. So yeah, this shit is raw, but look what you're getting. $18 breaths. Horse stance, bent knees, not knocked, not bow, right over your big toes. Right? Hips turned under, not by squeezing the glutes, right? By pushing your lumbar out. Right? So you can actually do that without really flexing any muscles. And then thoracic this way. Right? Drop the shoulders, flat back, vertically and horizontally, as flat as possible. And where you want the bow is in your arms, right? So that's Qigong. Where the curves are, make it straight. Where it's straight, make it curved. Right? Two things combined, masculine and feminine combined. Now in front of the heart. Same thing, make the bow with the arms. I just worked out, so my muscles are kind of like all twitchy, I guess. Chin down, neck being extended upward. Silent out breath if possible. So it's good to do this before the workout, which is what I recommend for you guys. That way you get to listen while you're working out. Do the Qigong first though, and it prepares you, right? You can also do it after, to shake it up once in a while, but this is how I'm designing this format, is you do this, right, the 18 breaths with me, and then you work out. So you see how my arms raised up there. That'll happen, right? Your muscles will you have to keep it there, right? Get inside your body. Oh. Now this position, the exalted, that's what I like to call it. It's like above your, I guess it's your third eye, right? Adjacent to. Still try to do the bow. I know on camera it looks like it's a square, but that's optical. Still attempting the bow and to lower my shoulders, even though my left shoulder is screaming at me. But it is a little better, like it's not as bad. And I'm kind of winded, as you can see. A little nervous too. Oh, I don't even know where my phone is. So today I have a poem. It's not complete because it's a pretty, I wanted to bring it home. Like there's something here. Right, this is, right, this is the crux question, right? We always arrive back at the crux. And there's different ways to get there and there's different ways to describe it. Which is, it's this uncomfortable singular point inside you, right? That's where you want to operate from, right? From that point, right? That connection to all things. Right, and when I say this, it's like, I'm not saying, I know from, what I am saying is I know from experience, but it's like, I can't always do it, Part of the reason I'm doing this whole thing is for myself as for everyone else, because if we are to do this, right, it is playing this thing on hard, right? It is, right, it is that we all come together, right? And it not be a trick, right? That it actually be consensus. And in that way, right, we can create this, a civilization, right, based on a new set of initial conditions. Not that we name them, right? But it's each of us is a universe unto itself, right? But we all interact with each other to create, right? So the initial conditions are installed here, right? And so the idea is to remove all the installations, and actually use the original operating system. I think it's a good analogy because our bodies are like these quantum computers, right? They're not machines, they're like these spirit vehicles, So that's like the most advanced vehicle in the universe, right? Spirit vehicle, right? We are not our bodies, right? The universe in all of its dimensions and realm. I don't like using certain words because it harkens to, this alternative view that is based on what I think is something true, but taking it to the nth literal degree, you know what I mean? And I don't think I'm going to mention it. But if you guys are on it, then you know what I'm talking about. This totality is the cosmic egg, right? I'll say that at least, right? The universe. And it's not levels, right? in this thing where you get up in the, you know what I mean, right? And we're somewhere in the middle low, right? It's dimensions, right? So it's like, forget thinking about it. Like, it's just so you can understand it in terms that you can fathom, right? Because you have this strange 3D fixation, right? Because you're a 3D thing, right? Can't. Part of the solution would be to get over the idea that to remove those goggles, you know. But those goggles are really all the goggles, right? Because that's what is perpetuated. That's what is maintained. The message, you know, the message that we all get bombarded with constantly is that we're just our bodies, right? In this, right? I mean, yes, I hesitate right now to like say, I know there's some objections in some of your minds while you're listening to this. Well, not everyone believes we're just our bodies, but that's the way they fucking operate, right? It's like it's a weird trick that religions do that make it, you know, all material, right? And the material is just as important, right? Because it's not just a ride, right? Our spirits didn't just come here for a ride, you know. The scariest fucking amusement park ride in the galaxy, right? In the fucking universe, right? This is what I harp on constantly, which is that it does matter, right? There is meaning, right? And there is, because we are, like Alan Watts said so well, we are the universe observing itself. So it's like, you hear that but to actually visualize it in a way as each of our eyes are a portal, right? A node, right? For example, that is like available, right? But it is, you know, again, it's like it is this cosmic dream that's happening, right? The first principle, right? The first principle of Hermeticism, right? The totality is mental. It's like a mind, right? And it's dreaming all of this up. And we are all like facets or fractal emanations of that same mind, you know. So what I'm getting at is that this part of the fucking totality is the totality, right? So stop fucking thinking it's some kind of separate thing that you ascend from, right? Who knows, right? Yeah, when you ascend, you become, you know, less distinct, and you're unable to interact with things that have like heft, right? And so it's something very special to be in this portion of the whole thing. And that's what I keep saying. And that's the message of Hermeticism, which is that it's a gift in order to embellish the totality, to actually be a novel source of novelty, right? And, you know, McKenna talked about the, you know, novelty. And, you know, his interpretation was, you know, comparable to Marshall McLuhan, right? Because his novelty events, McKenna's on his timeline, right, were coinciding with radical innovation, right, which is novel introduction of technology, something created by us that changes the scale and the scope of human interaction. Copy. So, yeah, right. So there's like, the objective here is actually not just individual, right? Because this individuality is like what makes us possible to create, right? To bring novelty into this, into the creation, right? Without it, with a singular mind, like a hive mind, where all thoughts are shared, right? Instantaneously, it's just one mind, right? It's just one mind. And so innovation, right, from that entity, right, is dependent upon okay, so it's a comparison to what we have, which is these individual laboratories, like minds that are cut off, relatively from everything else, right? In contrast to a hive mind with multiple individuals, right? Millions of individuals, but all things are shared, right? Then there's no opportunity for to break away from tradition, right? Because things are already established. Does that make sense? Because anything novel would be immediately known. and that's not a good way to put it. Like, this is becoming more difficult to describe than previous. Like, if you take it on the individual standpoint, the way I previously described it is that we exchange value, right? And so individually we witness that value, and we partake in it, like, meaning we organize, with others so that we may benefit from that value. And then we take it, and use it, right, individually, separate from everyone else. And that individual use permits a novel path of discovery, right? And so individuals can come back with an improvement and innovation on an already established source of value. And when I say source of value, I mean technology, right? Is this making sense? So in that way, right, we require this individuality in order to bring something new into the picture, right? Because if it's a hive mind, then it's all it's as if one mind is thinking, right? And so then there's no opportunity for this splintering, right? This bifurcation. I started this out wanting to read this, but so that same thing happens, right? We have a kind of enforced hive mind, right? This consensus belief system that we have that forces tradition, right, to be maintained, and the status quo to be reinforced, right? So it is like a partial hive mind already, right? Because this narrative is being broadcasted to us, right? And whatever the majority believes becomes, the operational truth inside the structure of our society, right? So that you can see how what we have now actually puts a vetting system on anything that's new, and it only gets to be introduced if it's tightly controlled by the current power structure. I mean, this is how it works, right? And this is what I speak about with credibility, is the built-in fucking meta fucking control, right? Is that you don't get a platform, right, if you don't play ball, right? If you're not already part of the power structure. And when you set out to maintain that, then you have to set up a false reality in order to maintain it. You have to make sure that if you set out to maintain tradition, right, then you have to, in order to make it seem like there's progress to the members, right? There has to be something happening. And so you set up these false dichotomies, right? That everyone gets invested in as real, but they all have been, managed from the top, right? This is the Hegelian dialectic, right? Both mazes lead to the same cage, this, purposeful, you say dichotomy, but another way to say that is polarity, like this purposeful false polarities that everyone believes are real, right? And so, right, they they take sides and join camps, right, and then they are defined by the enemy camp, right? Without the enemy, there is no other camp, right? So that's these false polarities. So this is what we have already, right? Like, so whatever, we have a kind of hive mind, and anything that is new, you have to be established already, right? Right? In order to say it. And so it's a managed introduction of the new, right? But it's always that, the threat of that becoming, like the new becoming a runaway fucking path to freedom, is managed by the contrast that is also introduced. So all this conspiracy theory shit, right? So it's all permitted to exist, right? In order to create, to build on the narrative, you know what I mean? And so it becomes, a lot of the conspiracies have been grouped in with, the right wing these days, with all the Q and everything like that. And so it makes it so anyone, in the opposition, right, will easily fucking negate any conspiracy as, kind of entertainment almost, it's like funny, laughable, right? And I can't believe people think this is serious, right? And it also, right, drives a wedge deeper between the factions, right? So it's like all information, it's like entertainment, right? Everything that is released is carefully curated, right? Everything that is permitted, right, that gets large followership, right, is curated, right? They'll spice it with just enough controversy to make it seem real, Anyway, so you see what I'm saying is that there already are these mechanisms in place that simulate a kind of hive mind, that protects it, protects the sense, its own sense of identity, because anything new would actually threaten that. And so with a more myopic view, we can look at this as like that there is a control structure that is actively managing the situation, right? And that's what conspiracy does. It looks at that aspect of it, right, and says, look at all this evidence, right? And so it's like, I mean, how long are you going to look, right? Like, how many instances do you need? And how far back in time, right, do you want to look to see the same thing happening, right? So it's a carefully managed program that leads to, a certain outcome, right? It's a pattern that is predictable at this point, So yeah, it's true. There is fucking they, right? But when you look at it like that, it's, missing the larger point, right? That actually creates an opposition, right? That creates another polarity that just feeds the same system, right? So you see a great evil to be fought, right? And that's what they want you to do. They want you to see the evil and take action against it. And that just repeats the same pattern. That's called revolution. And so that is not right. It's just big bait, and the appalling nature of the bait is what's so hard to ignore, And at this point in time, so this has been happening for all time, right? And we think it's not more gnarly in the past, but it's getting way more hardcore as we move forward. The evil that must be done, right, in order for us to take action against it, And so that's why it's, my position, or I don't even have a position. It's no position. But what I'm saying is that people who want to fight that evil, right, are being drawn into the trap. And when I am waving my flag over here, like, hey, they're like, oh, what you're saying is moral relativism. And, right. So then we just get back to the principle of Wu Wei at this point, right? Is any human conception of what is moral, right, requires what is immoral to define it, And so this is this human measurement, right? Whereas superior virtue is moral without it having to compare itself to anything. It just is good, is love. And so that's the whole point, and that's why we are, however many thousands and thousands of years in on this pattern and haven't broken it, right? So that's the difficulty, and the simplicity of the solution is you have to let go of the past, right? And so you have to let go of the atrocities and move towards living, right? As opposed to, right? This is how you balance the scales, is reestablish balance, right? And so, yeah, on the other hand, karma is real, right? And so getting, it's hard to fucking deal with. I'm like getting goosebumps and shit because this is like the subject, right? How do we break the wheel of karma, right? Balancing the scales, on what has been done can't be done, right? The scales get balanced. We have to allow them to be, right? However it happens, right? So in order to move into a new pattern of being, like a higher mode of living, our highest and best potential, we have to let go, and just, there's no resisting, right? There's only moving in a new direction, right? And so it's like, how do you do that, right? Like, there's no infrastructure, there's no network, right? No one thinks that this is even a thing to do, right? And would interpret it as like this wild neo-hippie, right? Neo-hippie movement. That's a good one. Because it's like, a breakaway civilization. And that's not it, right? So it's like I was saying before, right? We crystallize not a new, but it would seem new, right? The original human network inside this corrupt network, right? And so it's not I think that's like the perfect way, because we can't just make an announcement, we just have to create a source of value, right, inside the corrupted structure, right? And so this crystal will begin to grow, right, and reach critical mass, at which point it's that tipping point, right? And so everything I talk about with this like popularity, right, is what creates movement, right? I mean, I criticize it in that we use it exclusively, right, to determine value at this point, right? Is it popular? I'm in, right? But the thing is that what I'm proposing is like the most popular thing, right? Because it's everyone. Everyone's already there. And so it's not like, but it would require this like time frame, because we can't just snap our fingers, we all have to choose. But the tipping point I speak of is the point at which the old structure will die because everyone will come flooding over. It's not like at this point, this model of seeing the world, right, suddenly becomes, everyone is like, oh, since everyone else is doing it, I'm going to do it, like without any evaluation of what it is, right, of the actual core content, the new initial conditions, right? So when I say it reached a popular tipping point, I'm not talking about people blindly accepting it because it's popular, right, which is what we have. I'm talking about people understanding or understanding it, right, comprehending it, right, and knowing that it's the way to go. And so, yeah, it requires us early adopters and to bit fearlessly, right, germinate the structure. So, what up? And isn't that fucking more interesting, than just running the mill? Isn't it way more fucking compelling? Right? I can feel like, and I can see what I'm trying to say, right? And can you see it? Can you feel it? It's this is adventure, right? This is the fun part. Fucking that other shit is boring. It's fucking boring. Over there is like, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Over here, everything is new. Let's fucking cross over into the undiscovered country, right? So this is like completely separate. But I think that, yeah, that's good enough for now. But like, stay tuned, and more to come from over here, right? I'm gonna do that thing that I mentioned briefly. So stay tuned and spread the word, because look, right? Let's play this on hard, right? All y'all who are like listening later, like in the future, right now that like this, right? You're listening to this for a reason. So let's make it count, right? The urgency, right? We got the ball, right? We're 2 down, 3 down, maybe. We have the ball, and don't we don't rush it, right? We don't rush it, but we don't fucking pussyfoot around either. Keep passing it back to the goalie, right? Make it fucking count. So, a little poem before I depart that I wrote. And like I said, it's like there's just a steeper idea here, but let's just see how this sounds. Everyone says alignment is the objective. But alignment is, by definition, two straight lines that can never meet. It is two planar surfaces that never intersect. Everyone says alignment is good, ideal even, but I don't want it. I want to cross paths. I want to meet up. I want to intersect. I want to interfere. I want to be a disturbance to your disturbance. All right, love. Next time, stay tuned.